You're watching the Skateboarding Bros Show. Stories from the pioneers of skateboarding about the history and the fun of the sport we love.
There's the Ollie book.
Yeah, hey, there's the Ollie book. We're at volume 1.
Just want to give Craig a little shout out. Good work here. The Ollie.
It's awesome.
A lot of work.
And we had Alan on, and we talked about Mr. Dewar. And I have to say, me and Alan are pretty good friends. He doesn't deny what Jeff did. But what Alan did was went to contest, got even better, continued to skate in organized events, and traveled. Oh my gosh, he traveled so all over the place for Pal Peralta. And it was work. I mean, yeah, it was skating, but it was work. And what people that may not, when they think about like Gelfand, they think of this guy a long time ago invented a trick. But he invented a trick that has impacted and impacts every move that's going forward from the time he invented it. And he actually skated really well. He was smooth and stylish, and it's not just
he tries to play it down. He doesn't like the Dewar controversy. He says anybody could have invented it. He said there's probably other people in Africa doing it. He was overtly humble about it. I don't think so. I think he had a certain kind of genius to pull off that move, and the style that he did it with, and the dominance that he turned the world onto with that move. I mean, he really changed surfing and skateboarding with that move.
Let me skip ahead, Steve. I want you to keep talking because I took this picture, and this is a Vivitar 110 camera with 110 millimeter film. And in it is two of the most impactful skaters in the world right now. Plus you.
Steve Anderson and Kevin Peterson.
Yes, and Jim Goodrich.
Yeah, there's Goodrich right there. Yeah, it's a classic shot. And, you are the inspirato for this because you were the guy doing the flex, making it famous. And I was just piggybacking on your flex and trying to make it my own. And you were like capturing it.
If you look at this, we were the money guys. Everybody's got SIOs on. Everybody's got killer pads and all the equipment. And this is the summer that Goodrich came out to cover Alan and Rodney and the whole Florida scene. And you and Fisher rode with them out to California, right?
Me and Brent Rademacher went on a road trip out to Boulder. Let's see. I think we stopped in Boulder, and he went out to California. But we had the epic road trip together and had a riot. And we were just an American band. We're coming to your town. We'll help you party it down. I mean, we were having a riot.
So this is. I mean, you guys were. I don't have any pictures. I looked for it. I didn't have enough time. But this guy here, Sabra, did a rock and roll at Cherry Hill in a 3/4 half pipe. He almost killed himself, but he rode it out. So it was.
Do you have any shots of that?
No, I didn't. My engineer, producer, and my talent scout is missing.
We're working with artificial intelligence people now, so we'll be able to recreate that in no time.
If you want to pick it up off my Facebook page, you can insert it later. But that's a good story about that East Coast Championship, as it was called, up in Cherry Hill. I started doing those rock and rolls in the 3/4. First of all, me and Ray were staying in a hotel, and there was this manager up there named Frank Bazzanta. He was the crypto East Coast manager guy, and he was this real Italian character. He's very funny. And I remember me and Ray were sitting there, the contest. Ooh, that park was hot. That egg bowl was fast, man. And it had some vert on it. it was pretty daunting because you could do whatever you could dream of in that pool, but that 3/4 pipe, as it was called, went beyond vertical, and I was sitting there skating it, and I was like looking at it, and I realized if you could wheel it, you could rock and roll it. I just sat there in bed one night thinking about, like I was obsessed with it. I just kept thinking.
You're sweating like your knee pads were, your feet were sweating. I used to do that when I would think about skateboard tricks at night. I was in bed.
I was sitting there. I guess it was a natural visualization process where I was just like, I was thinking about it going, okay, you go up at an angle. Now you're so far, you're above vertical. If you tip it over and you put your wheels back on, they're going to naturally slide out because there's no friction there. You're going to slide out of it and you can slide it back in. And I just knew if you arched it and you came up and tucked it over, brought it back in, there's going to be like zero friction.
So you knew that once you came back in, that you were going to slide like 4 or 5 feet because you had to before you got any friction to turn it the rest of the way.
Sure. It wasn't gonna bother you. It wasn't gonna hang you up because you'd get some wheelers going, and then you would just bang the rock and roll and then pull it back. And if you had confidence, it was a mind trick. If you had confidence and just stuck with the board, it was going to slide out and slide down. And if you stuck with it, you were going to pull it off. And I asked people at Cherry Hill, I go, has anybody ever done a rock and roll here? And they're like going, no. And then that night, I just pondered it. I just couldn't sleep all night. I just kept thinking about it. And then I started pulling them off the next day. And then the word got around, and Glenn Friedman, the great Fuck You Heroes photographer, got word of it. I knew Glenn a little bit, but Glenn came out, set up the black and white, put it on a tripod. He knew exactly what he was doing. I mean, it was an artistic shot. And when I heard he was using black and white, I was a little bit bummed. But later on, the wisdom of that, the classicness of how he framed it and how he shot it, and I mean, God bless him, man. He had some patience because I couldn't pull it off for, I don't know, maybe 10 tries. He shot sequences and I didn't pull it off. And then I finally pulled it off, and then I pulled off a couple of them, and then I was pulling them off regularly. And I remember in the contest, Bazanta comes up to me and he goes, Steve, do 2 rock and rolls. I was like, what are you talking about? And so I knew if I did 1, I would win the contest. And so I pulled off 1, and then I got out of the 3/4. I just did a fly off the lip, fly off the side, air, roll out, thing. And and I won. I mean, I pulled it off, and then Frank comes up to me afterward. He goes, everybody's applauding. It's going crazy there. And Frank comes up and he goes, Steve, congratulations, but never betray me again. Or something like that.
No, he did not. Did he say that?
It was some sort of mafioso code. He goes, never betray me again, or something like that.
You should have just dropped in and done 2 rock and rolls and then left. And then but you've got 40 seconds left. No, I'm done.
Is he placing some side bets or something? He didn't tell you about?
I don't know, baby. I don't want to do 2 rock and rolls. And because if you fell in the second one, you would take away from the first one. And the first one was enough to win the contest. So he was, in his mind, he had confidence in me, and he wanted total dominance. And I understand where he's coming from, but I had to betray him.
That's like being told a compulsory routine.
I'm telling you.
Forget about it.
But yeah, that Cherry Hill contest was a blast. I think Shogo was up there. Let's see, I was against Danbra. I beat Danbra in the pool and the pipe.
Were you guys pretty even throughout your career?
Early on, he would mop the floor with me when it was mostly freestyle and jumping things. He was. I wouldn't even attempt to do what he was doing. But as we got in the pool and as we got more advanced in the pool, I could usually take him. But I remember after that contest, I flew back to Boca, and my brother picked me up. We had this big old station wagon, and I was like, I was so stoked. I won the contest. I got the sequence shot by Friedman, and my brother came and picked me up at the airport, and I was like, man, let's get the little Toyota. Let's go grab some Denny's, and I was really stoked. And he goes, by the way, he stole my car when I was away, and he got into a car wreck with it.
Oh no!
He stole the Toyota, and he took it down this little road in our neighborhood, and it was only one way that you were supposed to go, and he took it the other way. The other guy didn't see him; he smashed into him. So my brother smashed my car at the end of that story. But that little Toyota was my bread and butter through my high school and college years, man. That was like my true companion. That little Toyota with the Clash sticker and the surf racks. Good times.
Hell yeah!
Is Steve in any of these pictures?
I don't know if Steve ever skated the Gainesville ramp, Tampa Skateway. He skated the Basin. This is Bruce Mason.
All right. Yeah, I know Mason. Yeah.
And he got Monty up top right and down bottom left at Mike Shelton's Gainesville.
Monty was a godhead from Gainesville. That dude. I remember we were skating a contest at Solid Surf in that peanut pool out front. And I remember I was in my later days. I was just starting to go to college. I was on the cusp of getting out of skating. But I remember Monty came down there to skate. He had backside airs. He was smacking them. He had really good style, very macho. But that Solid Surf pool was my home territory. So I was trying to psych him out. I remember I was looking at him and trying to pretend like I was like Muhammad Ali. He was in my zone. And sure enough, he kicked my ass in the contest. So I could do some roll-ins and I could do some long rock and roll slides. But he had those backside airs that he would just smack them.
Powerful skater.
He was macho, man.
Yeah. Well, he was the kryptonite for me. I was kind of getting bad grades, and I was going to have to quit or go to. It was either follow this skateboarding thing that was going nowhere, or keep a free ride from my parents. And then Monty came, and I was the best skater in Gainesville for 15 minutes, and then Monty showed up, and I was no good anymore. I mean, when I quit skating, I went back 3 months later to have a session, and I was like, I'm not very good anymore. I mean, even if I did everything I did when I stopped, that's how fast everything progresses. Especially back then, there was so many tricks to be learned.
Well,
it was all new.
We were all hitting that age simultaneously as skateboarding was hitting that age where everything was just starting to fade away. It was like the last days of disco. It was like the end of an era. It was like all the parks were closing, the magazines were closing. You and I were going to college, so we had our college careers.
Yeah, we had
college chicks to think about. Yeah. And so we just thought, I guess that's the way it goes. It just ends. And so we were fine. We had college, we had girls, we had surfing. We would pick up a skateboard now and again, but the whole thing seemed to go away. But then it came back with a vengeance, and then people thought skating's cool. Hey, is that Johnny McGuig right there?
That is John McGuigan.
I stay in touch with him sometimes.
So he doesn't look like this that much anymore. He's grown up, but he was this kid who skated a lot.
Yeah, he and I stay in touch. We do phone calls time and again, and keep in touch on.
So that's Sea Dog, John Hudson. This is the slalom guy, and I don't remember who did this. I have no idea. Elevator dropping off boards. Silly idea. I love this picture. I can't remember who this guy is. We were trying to figure him out before.
That's Scroggs.
Yeah, it looks like Scroggs and Daly.
It looks like Daly, but it's not Scroggs. He was a judge. He looked different.
His thighs look a little bit too big to be Scroggs.
Yeah, it's not Scroggs.
Huh.
He's got Nikes on. Whatever. So we got a couple of more, but we got that one, which is again photo by Ed Wobble. If anybody.
Nice. Classic.
So this is Rodney's locals. Okay, I think that's Donnie Meyer, Ronnie Brown, and John McGuigan, and there's Rodney. So Phil built him all these mirrors to skate in front of. So that was where Rodney practiced.
Yeah, I remember Rodney really liked old McGuigan a lot.
Well, here's one of Rodney's tricks, right on the top. This is before he was doing ollies. He was learning them, though. He just popped the back of the board. It's how we picked our boards up. So he was skating for Inland or something at the surf shop.
I guess Mullen now is living in the UK with his lady, and he gets up at like 4 a.m. in the rain and just goes out and skates like solo. He's just like this heroic figure in the night, and he's just trying to get to the bottom of something. I know, like everybody, his limbs are starting to fail him, and mortality and age is starting to show its heavy hand in the in all events and occurrences. So he's fighting that monster too, and I mean he's kind of a philosopher king trying to figure it out. I heard he broke his hip and then he like re-broke it on his own to try to mend it. I mean so
he wanted to be able to ride switch as good as he rode regular. So in order to do that, you have to face a different direction. I'm paraphrasing him. So I saw one of these things, and so he would put one of his legs, like into wheel wells on trucks and cars and stuff, and try to make it go the direction he needed it to go in order to affect the board with the same reverse maneuvers to do a switch routine. And so now he has two tricks to him. If he learns it, let me back up. Let me slow down. Back in this day where this picture was taken, he told me he would learn a trick a day. That was his goal. So now he has to learn two because he's got to learn it switch. So when does skateboarding stop defining Rodney? And he do his own thing.
Question, yeah, he's definitely a genius, definitely an artist. I mean, that guy was so far beyond everybody. I mean, second place was
unacceptable.
A million miles away from him. I mean, he was so far above second place that you couldn't even see Rodney with binoculars at that point. And he was he was doing work with Ben Stiller for Walter Mitty.
Oh yeah, that was a good movie.
Out there in Reykjavik, and he was doing all that work for Ben Stiller. He's just a total baller. I mean, he's of course just a total legend. But he's at that moment where we all are, or not us. I mean, we faced that moment in college, but he's at that moment where Tony Hawk is, where McGill is, where I think Rodney had the great line where he said, "Don't rot in public." That means like don't let him see you get bad. And it's a really important thing. And, you know, especially when you're coming from such legendary status, you don't want to stick around too long and make it a little bit awkward.
Tom Brady.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's what every sports hero must face is, you know, mortality. How are the knees? You know, what's the back doing? I mean, Kelly Slater's facing it. I mean, it's.
Wait. So you mentioned Kelly Slater. So I got to interrupt you one thing. First of all, when you were thinking about doing the rock and roll at Cherry Hill, and you got that inspiration and that feeling, this is Rodney every day, all day, imagining tricks, right? And then you mentioned Kelly Slater, and I got that picture with Rodney and Alan, and you throw Slater into the mix, and Florida's a pretty strong place to be a sideways sport participant, because Kelly's
Florida, yeah, definitely. Florida's, Florida's the. I mean, there's always the Florida-California comparison, but Florida's got. I mean, when you think of what came out of Florida, we got Ollie, we got Rodney, we got Kelly Slater,
we got McTwist. McTwist was a huge deal.
Yeah, we got McTwist. Yeah, we got Nassau in Florida. I mean, Florida kind of kicks major dookie hole. If I could put it in those specific terms. But, you know, California's just California. It's just like Hollywood, like downtown. And, you know, there's no denying how badass California is. But Florida did pretty damn good for itself. I mean, we had some crazy little choppy waves, and we still came out with the world champion. And, you know, it was probably because our choppy waves that we came out with such great skaters, because, you know, those guys in Dogtown had, you know, surfing half the day, and we didn't. We had surfing half the year.
And they also had snowboarding if they wanted to drive a couple hours. So this is the last.
It was.
Look at Lance. It's so awesome.
I like that jacket. That's a Hall of Fame jacket?
That's the ones they had the last time, but I think they're changing them. Rumor is they're changing them to.
I got that one on the right, but that racing stripe one looks pretty damn cool. I wouldn't mind picking up one of those.
So I think they got Dickies this year, but I don't know. And they're looking for sponsors. There's some good people in this. So look at this. I had to take a screenshot of this.
There's Ray. Yeah.
This is Ray's. This is Ray's episode. Peter fan. Oh my God. I was laughing so hard at this.
That's funny.
Have you interviewed McGill at all?
No, I'm waiting to get better at it. I'm doing better now with the presentation. And Mike did you can see here, he was on the 9 Club. And Dave Andreck's got a pretty popular show. And we're trying to get a basis of, you know, a product so people can see it. And then, you know, we're trying to get better. But I don't think I need that. I mean, I want to interview the guys in the Hall of Fame that are being inducted. Markovich has said he'd do an interview. I need to learn more. Phil and I both need to learn more, and we need to get like the rock and roll that you say that I could grab a copy off of your page. I've got to find out what is the important and what are the good questions. You listen to Howard Stern interview somebody, or Ron Bennington. He's on Sirius XM.
I was friends with Ron Bennington, and
great guy.
Started on comedy. Yeah, one of the funniest mofos you'll ever meet. I mean,
he was on the Ron and Ron show.
There's no mystery why that guy like rose to the top and is crushing so hard. That guy was so freaking funny, man.
He's hilarious, and he's a great interviewer. If you watch some of the shows when he's just doing an interview, he's really good. So I mean, I was teasing a little bit with Ray, but really the time it takes to make a decent show is a lot more. Especially, I mean, I know you. I mean, we haven't talked in 40 years, but I know you. So it's a little bit easier. We were skating at the same time.
Sure. Yeah. I think if you knew each other back in that day, you're kind of brothers forever. You kind of know each other forever. You might be like a minute or two of getting to be reacquainted, but we basically know each other because we were back in the zone together. And the Skate Brothers were so tight. We went through so much stuff together. It's really similar to how my comedy brothers are. I have my comedy friends are like some of my closest friends. Even though I like left comedy, I still kind of didn't leave comedy. I still write jokes, but I stay in touch with those guys. And so we go through something so specific and so intense together. It's like you're forever friends, and you could pick up a phone in 5 minutes or pick up a phone in 15 years, and you'd be on the same page.
Well, I completely agree. But to put hit the nail on the head, whatever you want to say, to cap that off, anyone watching this show or any of the shows we do, there's a guy in the Netherlands that watches our show. He's a friend of my daughter's husband. But all the people in the pictures that you're seeing, it's like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's a different place, but it's all the same actors. During this time, these guys in these pictures were everybody who skated. That was all there was in Florida, was us.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
500 of us, or maybe. I learned how to do that wam pull thing by thinking about it, and I took it to Petty's Pool, Clearwater SkatePark in Gainesville, Florida, where I started it, and 30 people might have seen me do it. Nobody in California is ever going to believe it, but it doesn't matter because I was happy to show it to everybody. Was stoked for each other. When Mike Daly did a roll in the Clearwater on the coping, I was like, "You're insane!" 2-foot extension into a bumpy half pipe.
I used to do. After I came back from California, I was doing roll-ins all over the place because I was so influenced by the Stoke of California and Salba doing roll-ins. I was doing roll-ins on that coping side at the high end. I was doing frontside roll-ins, and I was at the back pool at Solid Surf. There was an opening that you take off. I would just do a roll-in, a backside roll-in, instead of going down the normal thing. I would do a roll-in every single time, just because I just wanted to keep my my instincts up or whatever. I never wanted any fear to get in on me, so I always do a roll-in. Always.
Plus, you got speed right away, and you're doing it a different way than anybody else.
Yeah, and everybody sitting there is going, "What the fuck?" And I would just go, "Whoop!" And
you remember the little pool they had? I don't forget what it's called. It was like 6 feet deep, 7 feet deep.
The back pool at Solid Surf?
The one that was like closer to the back, and there was then a big pipe that was like 8 feet over diameter, and they had this pool. So they had this. This is the place that had the water slide, right?
Yeah.
Right. So there was this little pool, and we had a wheeler contest in there. And Gelfand stood right by the front of the wheeler, right, and he watched everybody go, making sure, no, you go. And then he dropped in and he did 3 wheelers in a circle. Nobody else had ever thought about it. Everybody was trying to go faster, back and forth to do one on each side. And Alan did a triangle in the pool. I'm like, you did that with trucks that don't turn. I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's, as we're older now, that's what I find most fascinating is taking an original line. That's what I really think is cool now. I mean, at that time, we were just trying to pull these macho tricks here and there. The more and more I think about it, the more I'm proud of it is the original line, when you could just take one section of the pool or one way that nobody else had taken. I remember in that back pool, that was where I first pulled a frontside rock and roll, and nobody was doing them. I think maybe 1 or 2 people in Florida was doing them. And in that back pool one day, boom, I figured it out. I Rubik's cubed it, and oh, this is how you do it. And Alan was there, and he was so mad, and he tried it, couldn't pull it off, went all over the park to like these, little near vert sections, and did frontside rock and roll, frontside rock and roll, frontside rock and roll, and then came rushing back like he had it in his mind he was going to do one, and just took off and whoop, nope, nope. He was so angry, but I was pulling those frontside rock and rolls pretty early in the pantheon of skateboarding. I think we'd only just seen a photo from California before that, or maybe even we just heard about it. But then
it was Gil Gatto maybe that was doing them first. I know he doesn't.
Gatto mastered them, but yeah, but I remember that back pool for several reasons, and that was really a breakthrough.
Well, there's so many levels that things happened that weeded out people, right? All the way up to Alan doing the ollie and beating Olsen and Dwayne and all those guys. But I think when McGill blew out the McTwist, a lot of people said, I'm out. I'm out. Yeah, I mean,
who could follow him and do that thing? That was another one of those concept moves, not unlike the ollie, where it was in your head, like it was
the right switch, 4 feet of air switch, and commit.
It was a full-on gymnastic move, but you had to have something crazy in your head that told you that you could pull that off. And McGill, I mean, he was a cute kid, and he was a pretty good skater. He had some style. But nobody saw that coming, and then suddenly he pulled that, and it just like...
So it was in his head. He invented it in his head, and he watched Gelfand doing this ollie, and then Cab doing that half cabs, the full cabs.
There's definitely some mind moves. There's definitely a lot of mind moves where it's you have to think it, you have to believe it, and then you have to apply it. And there's
you gotta trust it.
I guess there was one line that really stuck with me. It had to do with writers, and it said, "Only talent recognizes genius," and that's so true, because you have to be at a certain level to know what the ultimate level is. And when you see it, you go, "Okay, look at that," and that McTwist was one of those. Ollie, of course, was one of those. There's a few other moves like that. I mean, then you get into the sheer gymnastics of Tony Hawk and the 900, but that's also in that realm where it's some sort of super imagination, super confidence. I mean, like that girl at the Olympics, Biles, lost her shit. She got the twisties, because you can become so advanced that you're like an astronaut. Nobody can touch you. You're all the way out there. You're doing something nobody's ever done, and there's nothing anybody can tell you about that. You have to have that internal confidence and talent and a sort of genius to be able to effectuate or pull off or make real what's in your mind and your imagination to, externalities like a surfboard or a skateboard or even a motorcycle.
It's commitment, because if you don't watch out, you're going to wind up like Gelfand on the bottom of the pool or Clyde Rogers. So we got to sign.
I got to roll. This has been great, Steve. You guys keep going. And
okay, we just got a couple more pictures to go through. You have. I tell you what.
You guys chat. I got to go.
Okay, Phil.
Thank you. Phil, thank you.
All right.
For the Gainesville era and your input into Florida skating, and it was a big part of all of our lives. And thank you so much for all you've done for the sport.
Thank you very much. And with
That's
that, I'm hitting the leave button.
Okay, we'll get the contact information so we can do the art.
All right. Right.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Right.
And I'll do a close in a couple minutes. All right, so he's out. So let's check out these pictures. This is Kona, and I was not drunk here. This guy, I walk up, I'm like, these guys don't do air that high. It's a bunch of shit. And then these guys are doing air that high, and they're doing it on the ramp. That's Peggy, a bunch of guys, Kona. I just threw a bunch of pictures together and thought do you remember Jimmy Marcus?
That name kind of rings a bell, but
So he was a little grom at Clearwater SkatePark, and he's been a pro ever since.
Is this Kona?
Which one? This is Kona, and this is Kona. This is George, 15 years old at Skatewave on a board he made. Bennett plate and hangers and mid tracks.
Yeah, look at those little trucks, man. Those big old wheels.
And there's
old school.
John and George. And this is Dave Adams right here. He's going in this year. He's been fighting the C word. And it's Jimmy and his dad. So this was when they opened the Dunedin skate park. But I want to know where this guy's going. I mean, where are you going to land? Way over on the flat. Is that Alva? Who's doing that? Anyway.
Yeah, you know what? That hair looks like Alva. And that style looks like Alva.
It could be, but I mean, it seems so much like things we've talked about on this show many times, that as we got, remember you said, you quoted someone as only talent recognizes genius. So as we got more talented, we recognized that half the pictures in the magazine were not makes.
Sure.
So, but we had to get better enough to know how things worked. So yeah. This was 2017. I don't know who this guy is, but he's shredding the concrete ramp or whatever this thing is with Bennett's.
Pretty badass.
Yeah, flipping me off.
He's got some style. He's got some jeans on, and he's rocking it in an old school board, man. Yeah, I think those are Bennett's, and those look like Road Riders.
Well, either that or Power Paws or something. I mean, the only thing that I think they were seal bearings. That's the only, I mean, it's still just amazing. And he's flipping me off, which is cool. And this is Steve. You remember Steve?
Oh, he is flipping you off. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. This is just a little bit of artwork. So this is what we do, Boards for Bros. We collect money and skate decks, and then we put them together and give them away to kids. That's what my garage looks like.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
That's Eric Tolpo and my buddy from I've got him hooked up with Boards for Rose in Atlanta. It's Chuck Dyer. And I love this. I don't know who the author is. I hope you can see the signature or whatever this is. But I think this is pretty cool. I think it has a lot to do with what you and I were talking about tonight. Is that, you know, that even the skaters today, even the ones that don't want to admit it, they have to admit what we did was for the love of the sport, because there dang sure wasn't money in it. You know, I mean.
Oh yeah, we were. Yeah, it was a weird love affair, man. I remember me and my brother just like taking off and setting up rocks in the street on weekend nights, and it was magic. It was so much fun. I mean, I used the sex metaphor about a girl. It was an endless amount of pleasure. I was waiting for you out there on a skateboard. I mean, my brother was a great skater. My brother Jay, and he broke his arm. We had a ramp in our backyard. He broke his arm up here. He had a bad break on it, and he gave up. We would have been the Stephen Mickey Alba of the East had my brother not broken his arm. And I remember one night he chipped his tooth and his nerve was hanging out. We had a riot. We would just skate all night, and we had so much freaking energy, and we were just so excited about everything. And a skateboard was just endlessly fascinating. It was just like, you could just, Stacy Peralta said it's all skateboarders are abstract artists, and he's totally correct in that. We could just look at anything and make something out of it by our imaginations. And, that's what we did all our let's see, sophomore year in high school. We were just skating all over the place, and then we'd find some things, and then urethane wheels came in, and then precision bearings came in, then the
that was the big changer right there.
It blew up right under our feet, and it was amazing what it turned into. And then it was just, it was like turned into Evel Knievel. It started out with surfing, it turned into Evel Knievel, and
it was passion. There was no future in it. It was for now. And
that's the beauty of it. It was pure.
It wasn't. What does the Dalai Lama say? There is no past. There's no future. There's just now. And I don't know if it's him or somebody, but it's a great philosophy. So I always try to. You were talking about core strength in the half pipes, and what we would do, we would just skate all day, forever. And Florida humidity, right?
Yep.
So the Sensation Basin address was 57 something, 100. 57 blocks.
I have the tattoo right here.
You have it tattooed on your hand. So it was.
It's an Auschwitz survivor. Here it is, right here.
It's like 5 miles, and that's how far I got to Sensation Basin. I had never won a ribbon or anything for Clearwater SkatePark, and I got there 4 days after we graduated high school, and I had no car, but I had a skateboard. And the first day I go, I have my Clearwater SkatePark team shirt on. Bad move, right? So I go and nobody talks to me. And I skate out there, skate all day, and then skate home.
Wow.
Right. So I did that every day, five or 6 days a week. Wasn't a lot of studying going on. And after I started trying to learn this rock and roll thing, whatever this move was, because I would go stop and then I would turn halfway in and slide all the way down and chatter and then kick turn out. And then I would get, closer to turning at the top at a time. And that's when Bruce Mason said, well, you got to skate the pool in a circle. You can't skate it back and forth, because I can never keep going. That pool is terrible. But he was the first person.
Oh, you're talking about that little basin pool?
Yeah, the one in the middle.
It had that kink in it, and
it rained on that park when it was being built.
I remember you used to take off that high hill.
Right here on the top right.
You used to take up, from that high hill and hit that front wall in the big bowl. And people would lose their minds.
This is some stuff Phil can do.
As soon as Rainbow Wave was built, that was over. But at Skate Wave, when I went there, they wouldn't let me.
Wow, that's cool.
My ball bearing wheels.
Wow.
But only Paul would let us do stuff like this.
Hey, Ed, thanks for the invite. Thanks for the pod. Loved it. Loved hanging out. Love talking about the day, the dizzy. And let's get together in St. Pete.
We'll do it
down old style.
It's a 14-foot deep pool. Let's go watch them skate it. Steve Anderson, thank you for tuning in and being with us and going over all this great Florida skateboard history. We're going to see you in St. Petersburg Park, the 14-foot deep pool, and all these killer skaters that are going in. Thank you very much for watching the Skateboarding Bros Show.
You're watching the Skateboarding Bros Show. Stories from the pioneers of skateboarding about the history and the fun of the sport we love.